Good afternoon and welcome to the Rundown. I am your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, the 16th of September. Louisville agrees to pay Breonna Taylor's family $12 million and enact police reform in historic settlement. An ICE whistleblower nurse allege that hysterectomies on immigrant women in the U.S. Emails show that the Rochester officers attempted to conceal information about Daniel Prude's death. And Democratic opponents call Lindsey Graham's bluff. And what the polls say about Mitch McConnell versus McGrath with less than 50 days until Election Day. Please stop and let me finish my question. Townhall questioner reacts to Trump interrupting her. Moment was a rare public rebuke of a sitting president by a voter with Election Day under 50 days away. And Notorious B.I.G. sells a $6 plastic crown that sold at auction for nearly $500,000, $594,750 to be exact. Let's get to the news. The city of Louisville, Kentucky has agreed to pay $12 million to the family of Breonna Taylor and institute a sweeping police reform in a historic settlement of the family's wrongful death lawsuit. The mayor of Louisville, Kentucky, Greg Fisher, Taylor's family and their attorneys announced the settlement at a joint press conference on Tuesday. Taylor was a 26-year-old EMT who was killed in her home by police on March 3rd. As part of the settlement, the city agreed to establish a housing credit program as well as an incentive for officers to live in the areas they serve, use social workers to provide support on certain police runs, and require commanders to review and approve search warrants before seeking judicial approval, and among other changes. The settlement comes more than 6 months after the Louisville Metro police officers broke down the door to Taylor's apartment and fatally shot her while executing a late no-knock warrant in a narcotics investigation. The fatal police shooting has led to months of protests in Louisville and across the country under the overarching Black Lives Matter movement against anti-Black racism and police violence. Since her death, the police chief was fired in June after a separate police shooting, and the Louisville City Council has passed Breonna's law, which bans no-knock search warrants. Still, however, none of the officers involved in the Florida raid have been charged with a crime. Kentucky's Attorney General Daniel Carmen, the first Black person to hold this post, and a Republican rising star, was made the special prosecutor in the case earlier this year, and the FBI has opened an investigation as well. Good afternoon and welcome to the Rundown. Once again, I am your host, Captivating Christian, and this is the special segment of the show I like to call just me giving my opinion, where we get to interact together, I with you in the chat, and you get to hear my opinion on these particular stories for this afternoon. First, before we get started, we would always like to handle house business first and say welcome to all our new subscribers or new watchers to the channel. Hope that you like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that bell notification so you never miss another update of what's going on here at Cap Hill. And here at Cap Hill, like the actual hill on in Washington, D.C., I have state reps, and my state reps are who? The people in the chat. And to my state reps, welcome, welcome, welcome. It is always a pleasure to see you here at Cap Hill. So let's have some fun and get started, shall we? So our first story is about Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor's family has just settled a $12 million lawsuit towards the city of Louisville, Kentucky, for the wrongful death of Breonna Taylor. You know, her family was filing a wrongful death lawsuit against the city. So they settled for the $12 million. Now, I do feel some type of way about it because I feel that none of the officers, although what comes with this settlement is some police reform that it desperately needs. However, the police still have not been charged with any crime. So you're basically putting a price tag on the lives of innocent Black people, let alone Black people in general. Which is a bit disturbing to me. However, okay, so why haven't any of the police officers been charged with a crime, which was a crime that was committed regardless of your intention on going to that said apartment to look for narcotics? You killed the woman in cold blood, and then as she lay there still living, you refused to seek her medical help to even attempt to save her life. So you injury upon injury. Like the boyfriend said also in a statement in that same article, he said no amount of money will be able to bring back Breonna. And I totally agree. No amount of money you can throw at anyone will be able to bring back someone's family. I did not specify any kind of damages or monetary damages that the boyfriend was seeking. He was also in the apartment at the time of the massacre, and he defended Breonna as well as himself in the home, wind up shooting one of the officers. So we shall see when more of this comes out, but really I am not feeling it. I mean, yeah, it helps the family get some sort of closure, and I guess it calms down the city and state from the protest and unrest and phone calls and many things of that nature. But I mean, what amount of money can you really put a price tag on a person that brought so much to their family, whether you knew her or not? It's still a person that was shamelessly killed for no reason. So, you know, I don't know, but it's just, I'm thankful the family has started to receive justice in some form, but I think there's still more that needs to be done. And if this was a way to keep everybody quiet as these three officers still keep their jobs after some grave mistake as this, that's absolutely ridiculous. And that will be the crime, knowing that, you know, Mitch McConnell probably helped cover this up. The Attorney General, who is also a Republican and happens to be a Black man, helped to sweep this under the rug so they can move on as business as usual, which then again diminishes reform, because if you're going to keep it business as usual and all you're going to do is write reforms to keep the people somewhat satisfied, I think it's a disservice. An advocacy group has filed a complaint against the Immigrant Detention Center in the U.S., alleging medical negligence and a lack of virus safety measures. The complaint condemns the practices and conditions at a private Iowa County detention center in Georgia. It is based on the allegations of a whistleblower, a nurse identified as Dawn Woodland. She worked at the center, which houses immigrants detained by immigration and the Customs Enforcement Agency. As part of her complaint filed on Monday, Ms. Wooten expressed certain concerns about the high number of hysterectomies performed on Spanish-speaking women at the center. The nurse said detained women told her that they did not fully understand why they had to get a hysterectomy, an operation involving the removal of all or part of the uterus. The complaint also alleges jarring medical negligence during the coronavirus pandemic, including a refusal to test detainees with symptoms and fabricating medical records. Okay, this next story comes from a whistleblower in the medical department that deal with ICE immigrants, immigrant women to be exact. It came from a nurse who actually blew the whistle, which means they reported kind of criminal activity or activity that is somewhat unjust. That goes against a person's rights. That's usually what whistleblowers do. They report things that go against people's rights or against the Constitution as we know it of the United States, right? So, basically, in a nutshell, the ICE doctors were given hysterectomies to a lot of the immigrant women that were held in the facility without their knowledge of the reasons why, in their native language, why they were getting the hysterectomies in the first place. Now, a hysterectomy is the removal of half or all of the uterus. And without telling a lot of these women why they were getting hysterectomies is definitely egregious and on the lines of a war crime to some degree. So, he keeps talking about this Nobel Peace Prize that he's hoping to get, but the monstrosities that he's having or under his watch, I don't see how anyone would even nominate this man for a Nobel Peace Prize. For what? But anyway, they have been pushing that out there. But anyway, I digress. So we get back to, these doctors mutilating these women's bodies without their full permission. And for what reason? To diminish the population of brown people overtaking the world. I mean, it just doesn't make I don't see what other way it could make sense. It's absolutely crazy. This is happening in real time, and there's a genocide going on. This is absolutely crazy. People be very aware that this is happening full time, that they are removing the uterus out of a lot of women of color. Wow. In early June, as American cities reeled with anger protest over the death of George Floyd, police commanders in Rochester, New York were trying hard to prevent the very similar death of Daniel Prude from going public, releasing a video which depicted the Rochester police restraining Prude until his heart and lungs failed could have intensified ramifications, the captain told the higher-ups on a June 4th email. Rochester Police Chief LaRon Singletary, relieved of duty, and city lawyers did their best to oblige, stalling the release of the video for 2 or more months. In a 325 catch of documents released Monday by the City Hall about the city's handling and mishandling of the Prude case. The arguments by police to suppress the video that showed his death were among the most compelling. Many of the documents touched on actions by leadership in the police department and suggest police actively worked to conceal what happened. The documents were released Monday by the Rochester mayor. Lovely Warren announced that she was relieving Police Chief LaRon Singletary of his command and suspending 2 other top officials. Right, this particular story is about the death of Daniel Prude. Daniel Prude was the young man who was asked to remove his clothes and get on his knees with his hands up, which he complied. However, he did say that he had coronavirus, and I don't know if that was mental illness talking or what have you. He was shown kind of talking and spitting, and it kind of, I guess, landed on some of the officers. So to ensure that none of his bodily fluids from his mouth end up on any of them, they put a hood over his head. However, they wind up holding him down to the pavement, and his heart failed and his lungs collapsed. So, of course, the man wound up expiring, which is he wound up dying. And again, at the hands of the police. However, the Rochester Police Department, in old gang fashion, tried to cover it up. Okay, they sent out emails because the backdrop of what was going on at this particular time was George Floyd, and they did not want, and actually this might have been before George Floyd to be exact, but they didn't want spillover to come then to Rochester and kind of shake the trees to see what fell out. So they tried their best to cover this up. Now, granted, I know that police departments can do a lot of things and the mayor not know, but for the chief of police to be involved in this cover up and the mayor not know at all, I find that to be like, wow, like what kind of system are you running here? Are you literally just beholden to the police department? And if that is the case, then that says a lot about the power of the police department in Rochester, New York, and other places. That the mayor may be totally blindsided by what the department is capable of doing, meaning that the department would have more power and jurisdiction over the mayor? What? I'll wait. Wow. So So the mayor had let go of the police chief after these emails popped up that the captain had sent an email to the higher ups in the police department division, as well as the police chief and some other officers high up on the chain of command, to inform them that, hey, we can't let this out, because if we let this out, this will be like a fire keg to what's going on, and will bring all of that protest and media, frenzy to our doorsteps. So they proceeded to cover it up. Of course, the police chief is saying that he had no intentions on covering up this video, blah, 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 blah. But the evidence is out there. It is showing it clear as day as far as the correspondents are concerned, with the emails from all of the top officials, including the police chief, to keep the video and what actually happened to Mr. Prude under wraps. Again, like I've always said, purely nothing but a gang of thugs. It really doesn't matter what color they are, because they actually take in the doctrine of suppression, again, because it's all about, what do you think, or how are you trying to view yourself as getting ahead or better? And sometimes some people feel like, hey, if they gotta step on their own kind to get where they want to be, they will do so. So, I mean, I don't know why we need to be acting surprised or shocked. It's unfortunate, yes, but I think everybody needs to be kind of taken to task about this. I do hope the FBI is investigating, and other law enforcement agencies outside of the Rochester, New York, and the New York area investigators are looking into this, because I do believe it's a lot deeper. I think this is just scratching the surface of the criminality of the police department in Rochester. Senator Lindsey Graham, the Republican out of South Carolina, Democratic opponent, just called the senator's bluff. Last week, Graham demanded that his Democratic opponent, Jamie Harrison, release his taxes. It was an odd demand and request, given that Graham's golfing buddy, President Donald Trump, continues to fight attempts to see his own taxes. In a passionate press conference, Graham proclaimed his commitment to government transparency, but he has yet to apply that same philosophy to his friend. Now here we have a story talking about my favorite person. Who else but one of my favorite people in the whole wide world? Yes, Lady G. Alright, so Lady G, aka Lindsey Graham, Lady Grand Diva, alright, actually tried to call out Jamie Harrison, his Democratic opponent, to show his taxes. Now, how stupid can you be to be asking your opponent to show his taxes when your own president is fighting in court right now to keep his under wraps from Congress, from New York prosecutors, from everybody in the whole world? How do you even fix your lips to ask about somebody else's taxes and then talk about how he is on the up and up about being transparent in government? Come on, get out of here, Lindsey. Child, please, your thong must be too tight or too far up your ass to even realize how stupid and condescending and hypocritical you sound asking for someone else's tax returns. And Jamie Harrison's response was spot on. Yeah, sure, I'll indeed do that. You go tell Donald to do the same. Yeah, like I'll do it when Donald does his. How about that? And then they have set this precedent to make it okay. So then you can't ask for somebody else's tax returns and you not show the president not show his, and that be okay. But everybody else has to show theirs. Come on, it's creating an extra standard that need not to exist. Hey, this is Captain Raiden Christian here to remind you to tune in to Politics and Wellness every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Politics and Wellness every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. You never know what you might get. With less than 50 days until the election on November 3rd, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, a Kentucky Republican, looks well positioned to fend off his Democratic challenger, former Marine fighter pilot Amy McGrath. McConnell, the longest-serving senator from Kentucky in the U.S. history, first entered the Senate back in 1985. Although McGrath has brought in an impressive $50 million in campaign contributions to defeat McConnell, none of the most recent polls out of the deepest conservative state shows the Democratic opponent ahead of the incumbent Republican. A recent poll by the Quinnipiac University shows McConnell with the support of 49% of Kentucky voters compared to just 44% backing McGrath. But polling by the Bluegrass Data Analytics show a somewhat closer race, although McConnell still leads by 3 percentage points. In that survey, the Republican was supported by 49% of Kentucky voters, as opposed to the 46% which backed the Democrat. Here in this particular story, I think, this story was a bit of a setup too. I'm side-eyeing this whole story. Actually, this is about who else but Russian Mitch McConnell, Agent Mitch, right? So Mitch McConnell is up for re-election. His Senate seat is up, and his Democratic opponent is none other than Amy McGrath. And Amy McGrath, who is a veteran, has fought in the Gulf War and I believe the war in Afghanistan as well. But war in Afghanistan, I'm definitely sure. She's a former Marine fighter pilot. And McGrath, listen, I'm just going to be pretty frank with you all, and I'm sure that you can kind of see where I'm going with this. We all know what kind of state Kentucky is, right? And we all know from 2016 that many states, although they may be progressive in some areas, there are many areas that they are not so progressive in. And one of those areas would definitely be a woman in certain offices. Not saying that it's not possible, of course, but there are certain strongholds that are hard to break in certain areas. And Kentucky, having a woman sit in the Senate spot that Mitch McConnell has held for the longest would be a bit of a sale. The race, although the race is pretty close, I still believe that Charles Booker would have been a more suitable choice. It would have really ignited and pushed the black vote in Kentucky out to vote for him, as well as the minority vote. So I don't know. I don't know what the thinking was behind that, but I mean, we all know that there are a lot of women who talk about voting for women and women having power in certain areas of government. Yet, on election day or when it's time to vote, they do wind up voting for the male counterpart, saying basically in private that the male counterpart is better suited for government than women. Now, we know that to be not true. However, polling, though, have shown that sometimes a lot of women, especially Caucasian women, vote for the male candidate over the female candidate. So, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. I just think this was kind of a setup to ensure that Mitch McConnell would win, because I just believe that Booker would have given Mitch McConnell a better run. I just do. I don't know. Something in me just says that the other candidate would have gave him a better run. With all that has been going on with racial issues as far as the police and all that is concerned, I think having a black candidate running up against one of the most powerful senators in this government to really uproot something, I think he would have made Mitch McConnell pretty nervous. I think this woman was something where they could, have a match, but it wouldn't be something where it would make Mitch McConnell nervous. With all this unrest, I think that black candidate would have made Mitch McConnell nervous. With Breonna Taylor and all that's been going on in Kentucky, he wouldn't have been able to withstand it, no matter how much money they threw at him. But with this candidate, possibly so. But we'll see. We shall see come election day. So they say that the polls are pretty tight. I don't care to listen to polls. People tell pollsters anything, and come election day, they vote something different. So we'll see on election day what the actual outcome will be. But hopefully Mitch McConnell gets unseated. So therefore he gets the boot and he would have to go. But, that's wishful thinking. A Pennsylvania voter told Donald Trump during a Tuesday night town hall to stop interrupting her so she could ask him how he would use his second term to protect people like her who have a pre-existing condition. Instead, the president claimed that he was close to rolling out a health care plan that would replace the law known as Obamacare. He has been making that claim for the last 3 years, but has failed to produce a package that would pass both chambers of Congress. Last month, he said that a new GOP plan would be unveiled in the coming months and weeks, but his White House has yet to produce such a blueprint, and no Republican lawmakers are running on a new health care plan or talking about them in the halls of the Capitol. The emotional moment was among a handful of times undecided voters pressed him during the Philadelphia event, his 7th stop in Pennsylvania this year alone. He and Democratic nominee Joe Biden are jousting for the key swing states' 20 electoral votes.
On healthcare, it comes from Alicia Block. She's from Philadelphia, an assistant professor who voted for Hillary Clinton last time.
Hi. Mr. President. I was born with a disease called sarcoidosis. And from the day I was born, I was considered uninsurable. That disease started in my skin, moved to my eyes, into my optic nerves, and when I went to graduate school, into my brain. When it hit my brain, I was automatically eligible for disability for the rest of my life. I chose instead to get a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a PhD, and become a professor.
It's great.
It is great, except I still have similar healthcare problems. It costs me, with co-pays, I'm still paying almost $7,000 a year in addition to the copay, and should pre-existing conditions which Obamacare brought to fruition be removed?
No.
Please stop and let me finish my question, sir. Should that be removed within a 36 to 72 hour period without my medication, I will be dead. And I want to know what it is that you're going to do to assure that people like me who work hard, we do everything we're supposed to do, can stay insured. It's not my fault that I was born with this disease. It's not my fault that I'm a black woman and in the medical community I'm minimized and not taken seriously. I want to know what you are going to do about that.
So, first of all, I hope you are taken seriously. I hope you are. And we are not going to hurt anything having to do with pre-existing conditions. We're not going to hurt pre-existing conditions. And in fact, just the opposite. If you look at what they want to do, where they have socialized medicine, they will get rid of pre-existing conditions. If they go into Medicare for All, which is socialized medicine, and you can forget about your doctors and your plans, just like you could forget under President Obama. He said you can have your doctor, you can have your plan, and that turned out to be a lie. And he said it 28 different times, at least. We have 28 different times. You can have your doctor, you can have your plan. Well, it's not true. But what we're doing is we're going to be doing a health care plan, pre-existing, protecting people with pre-existing conditions. As an example, yourself, it sounds like that's exactly perfect. That's exactly what we're talking about. We're going to be doing a health care plan very strongly and protect people with pre-existing conditions. I will say this. They will not do that because they have socialized.
I have to stop you there.
Socialized
I just have to stop you there because it's just on a couple of points. Number one, Joe Biden has ran against Medicare for All in the primaries, but much more importantly, Obamacare guaranteed people with pre-existing conditions could buy insurance, guaranteed they could buy it at the same price as everyone else, guaranteed a package of essential benefits, guaranteed that insurance companies couldn't put a lifetime limit on those benefits. You fought to repeal Obamacare. You are arguing.
Well, I essentially did.
You're arguing in the Supreme Court right now to strike it down. That would do away with pre-existing conditions.
So that we can do new health care.
But you've been promising a new health care plan. I interviewed you in June of last year. You said the health care plan would come in 2 weeks. You told Chris Wallace that this summer it would come in 3 weeks. You promised an executive order on pre-existing.
I have it already.
But you've been trying to strike down pre-existing conditions.
I have it already, and it's a much better plan for you, and it's a much better plan. And
what is
when you say Obamacare, I got rid of the individual mandate, which is the worst part of Obamacare.
You're striking down the whole law.
Wouldn't pertain to you, but it pertained to a lot of people where they were going literally bust because they didn't want to have health insurance and they were paying for it anyway, and it was no good. Obamacare was a disaster. Obamacare is too expensive. The premiums are too high. It's a total disaster. You're going to have new health care. And the pre-existing condition aspect of it will always be in my plan. And I've said that loud and clear.
But you haven't come up with it.
And we got rid of the individual mandate, which essentially ended Obamacare. And I had a decision to make.
Only because you're arguing for it.
George, I had a decision to make. Do I run? We gutted out the worst parts of Obamacare. Now I have to make this decision. This is 3 years ago. Do we run Obamacare well and do a good job and do the best, even though it's never going to be very good? Or do we let it run badly? Probably letting it run badly would have been a better political decision, but I couldn't do that. We have run it so much better than Obama ran it. Now, it's not the same because I got rid of the most unpopular thing and a very unfair thing.
You're trying to strike down the whole law.
George, we have run it really well. But we also have now if you go Department of Labor, our great secretary, as you know, and you know him well, we have other alternatives to Obamacare that are 50% less expensive and that are actually better.
It's been 3.5 years.
George, it's been 40 years since you had good health care. You never really had good health care in this country. This country has never had it. But when you say that Biden doesn't want to do it, everybody else does. Bernie does. He agreed to the manifesto, as I call it. The agreement with Bernie is that you're going to go to socialized medicine.
He ran against
If you
Medicare
go to socialized medicine, well, he agreed. And Harris, who he today said Harris Biden because he thinks she's president, Harris, and someday you'll have to explain that one to me, but Harris is all for doing that. She wants to go to socialized medicine. So you no longer have your doctor really, and you no longer have your plan. And Joe can say all he wants. He's only doing it because he sees his poll numbers going down so substantially. But Joe can say all he wants about health care. You know, Obamacare has been a failure from day one. It's too expensive, whether it's the premium or whether it's the cost generally. And they don't have their doctors and they don't have their plans. We're going to have a very good health care. I think maybe
All right, in this video clip, you can see how rude President Donald Trump was being. He has this huge thing or a huge problem with women. Don't know where that comes from, father, mother, upbringing. But yeah, he has this huge thing with women. I guess he feels that they should be seen and not heard or spoken to or of in any way other than childbearing and whatever else he thinks women do or should be doing. But yeah, I think that's his problem overall with all of it. I don't see how any woman, Republican and or Democrat, could vote for someone who doesn't see it for you. And here you are, a constituent of this person. You are relying on this person and trusting this person to actually have your best interests at heart. How could they have that when they don't even see you as equal? I just don't get it. Unless you as a woman don't see yourself as equal, then I can understand that. If you don't even see yourself as nothing even close to being compared as to a man, not in the physical aspects, but everything else, of course. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't get what these people see, what justifications they have that it would make it okay for you to vote for someone who does not see it for you. I don't even, you can't even make that make sense even to me. I can't. I don't know. I don't even know what to say behind that. I just don't. The video speaks for itself. I think it's time for a change, guys. We played enough. You got to see what your side is capable of. We are sitting here in this pandemic, and he's yet again unwilling to listen to anyone other than himself, or what he thinks he's capable of doing, or even lying to the people yet again about a program that he's rolling out with in a couple weeks. And here we are, with all this time and all this going on, people dying of a pandemic, and we talking about doing what with the healthcare that's already kind of managing, either paying or helping pay for people in this already stricken crisis, which is now being considered a pre-existing condition for anybody who happens to make it through this coronavirus pandemic. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And be sure to join Jay Wilson, Rebel Sun, The Official Kingpin, Conscious TV, and Captivating Christian this and every Thursday at 6:45 Central Standard Time, 7:45 Eastern Standard Time for the Gentleman's Panel, where we are not afraid to go there and discuss an array of topics. See you there. The plastic topper worn by Christopher Notorious B.I.G. Wallace in his last photo shoot sold for nearly $594,750, which included the buyer's premium fees and taxes, during an auction Tuesday night, despite its original price tag only being $6. At an auction house for the first hip-hop memorabilia auction, which featured one-of-a-kind Def Jam recording jacket, a trip type of Pioneer DJs painted by Fab Five Freddy, and Julia Leibert's crystal encrusted handbag inspired by a boombox was a few of the featured items. All right, and lastly, the story of the first hip-hop memorabilia auction that happened on Tuesday night. I'm sure probably somewhere in New York, where the Def Jam jacket was sold, a purse, the crystallized purse that was in the shape of a boombox, as well as a trip type of pioneering DJs that was painted by Fab Five Freddy, and the plastic $6 crown that Notorious B.I.G. wore on one of his last photo shoots. And actually, they made that photo shoot into a Andy Warhol copy, where they have the different colors and the four sides of that same photo, that he has that plastic crown on from a Party City or something like that. So that one crown went for nearly $500,000. Wow, and what a bonus. You went from buying it for $6, and I wonder if the person still had it, or if someone else had it. That's what I want to know. Who had it originally? $6 to selling it for nearly $500,000. Wow. Just wow. First, I want to know who has the money to buy that. That's what I want to talk to. That's a lot of money. And yeah, that's just a lot of money. I mean, all power and respect to the artist, who's a great, artist and had some good music. But yeah, almost $500,000, almost $600,000, pretty much. That's a lot. That's quite a lot. Not to mention, it was actually altogether about $500,000, and the taxes and fees came up to almost another $100,000, which made it closely totaling $600,000. Those some steep pockets. in the midst of a recession. You know, we got time to buy $600 plastic crowns, and people can't even, have food security. You know what I'm saying? People don't even know if they're going to have a job when this kind of reopens. But we can buy $600,000 crowns. So you see the disconnect in it? I'm sure it was for a good cause, and I'm sure it made people feel good, whomever, some of the proceeds went to. But at the end of the day, we're in a pandemic, people, and people are dying, and we can buy $600,000 crowns, plastic crowns that you can buy from Party City, just because it was in a photo shoot with an entertainer that happened to, no longer be with us. Wow. Can we say priorities? I'm just saying. And once again, thank you for watching CCN Midday News. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that notification button so you will never miss another news update. Have a great day. Peace.